And now it's time for Windy City Sports Talk. And your host, Ryan Young.
Hello, Chicago! Welcome to this live Tuesday night edition of Windy City Sports Talk. I am Ryan Young. It is October the 18th. Of course, we're going to recap, preview everything going on in the world of sports. We also have, of course, if you want to follow me on Twitter, at ringside_rep. Appreciate it. That was the remote dropping. Shit's going down. That's what happens at a later start time. One night only. For the reason of that is I went to go visit my aunt. If you folks follow the Ringside Report, October is, of course, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it's also Liver Cancer Awareness Month. And my aunt just had liver cancer, and she got her transplant. She's just out of ICU, and now she's in rehabilitation. So got our first chance to go down to Milwaukee to see her. So I decided, and it's also Game 3 of the NLCS. So I decided let's do a later show tomorrow. We'll be back at the normal start time of 3 o'clock. But glad they could be here. We're going to recap, of course, the Hawks play tonight. Really not going to be the topic of the story. I'll get into recapping that tomorrow. But it's mainly talking about the championship series. And let's get into the one side of it, the American League, which of course is getting, going into yesterday, last time we were on. There was a 2-0 lead for Cleveland. Of course, a lot of people were worried about Trevor Bauer and was he going to be able to hold up with his mechanics. Well, or was he going to be able to hold up with his finger? Of course, for you people that didn't hear, he was playing with his drone and it turned on or whatever and sliced his finger. So it didn't look too good. But then of course the blood was dripping. He was not able to stay in the game, and he got taken out of 2/3 innings. And last night it ended up being an Indian bullpen game, and that bullpen was able to do a tremendous job and be able to win that game for the Cleveland Indians. They win that one of a final of 4-2, and Cleveland after last night have a 3-0 lead. They're ready for the World Series. And I think after Game 3 they played exceptionally well to be able to get a win, and that's all they needed, I think, was one win there to really solidify themselves as going to the World Series. Because of course last year Cubs were down in the same spot the Toronto Blue Jays were in, down 3-0, and you're thinking you still have a sliver of a chance if you can just get one win. But of course right now the Cleveland Indians are riding high. Cleveland's doing a tremendous job. They're playing very well. Everything's going right. That bullpen is dangerous. And I think the only way you're able to beat this Cleveland Indian team is if they're going to be able to, if they can do something out of the, if you can attack their starter, which you haven't been able to do that either. But of course in Game 3 last night with Trevor Bauer out there, Bauer only lasted 2/3 of an inning and he had to get into that bullpen, but what a job. And that bullpen did a great job, and that's why they had a 3-0 lead. And, of course, Andrew Miller going to be in there, and he did it again. Allen was in there. Their closer, he did a good job. So, really, that bullpen did an absolutely phenomenal job for the Cleveland Indians last night. Give them a 3-0 lead, and I think Cleveland fans are just like Cub fans that think everything bad can happen. And then, of course, you go to today's game, which started at 3 o'clock because the Cubs-Dodgers Game 3 got the late start. It was started off with a 1-0 lead for the Toronto Blue Jays and a solo home run by Josh Donaldson. So Donaldson gets the home run, and eventually Cleveland, I think, ties it. And then Toronto got a 2-1 lead, didn't look back, and Edwin Encarnacion, 2-run double, scored a couple, and that gave the Blue Jays a win, and they win that one of a final of 5-1, and they have now they get a win at home, which now tomorrow afternoon, that game will be starting when we start our show at 3 o'clock. Of course, that'll be going into Cubs-Dodgers Game 4 at 7 o'clock. But I think big win for the Toronto Blue Jays. I think that gives their fans hope. That's something the Cubs couldn't do last year. I've been looking at On This Day stuff on Facebook, and everything's been like, oh, well, the Cubs lost this game against the Mets, and the Cubs lost Game 2 against the Mets. We'll get them at home. Yeah, that didn't work out either. They weren't able to get any wins at home. They got swept. But the Toronto Blue Jays able to get a victory, and now they live to fight another day. And now, of course, I'm sure in Cleveland, this kind of puts the panic button on a little bit because they're like, okay, because they're just like Cub fans. And I think a Cubs-Indians World Series would be absolutely phenomenal when you put it in that perspective that, hey, what? Anything and anything that could possibly go wrong can go wrong. And I think that's exactly what's going through the mind of the Cleveland Indian faithful right now. It's just what's going to go wrong. Now, of course, tonight it was the defense, or the offense started to waken up slowly for the Toronto Blue Jays. So they were able to do a tremendous job, be able to get the offense going, and that's exactly what they were able to do. Now, of course, Corey Kluber pitching on short rest. Hey, that works for guys that are like Madison Bumgarner and Clayton Kershaw. Unfortunately, it did not work for Corey Kluber in this game, and they got the loss. Now, Cleveland, and I sound out of breath, and I think I'm winded, so hang on one second. Just gotta calm down. Calm down. I think I'm back. But I think with Cleveland having to go with Corey Kluber, I think it was definitely tough for them. Because like I said, if you're not Clayton Kershaw, you're not Madison Bumgarner, it's very tough to go on 3 days rest unless you're a special beast. And that's exactly what they are. And a tremendous job by the Blue Jays to be able to get back in that game. And now, I wouldn't say they're back in the series. You probably got to think that maybe a win tomorrow afternoon would get them back in the series, because then that would shift the series to Cleveland Friday and Saturday, which I think for the Cleveland fans, they'd love to clinch it at home, but they don't want to go through the heartache of having to deal with the day off and be like, oh no, what's going to happen wrong next? Because part of me thinks Toronto's still in this series. Part of me still thinks that Toronto has the opportunity to really fight and scratch and claw. So, I mean, they still have that opportunity. I think that place is really going to be loud now because, I mean, obviously you took the wind out of their sails last night in Toronto. And to be able to come back and get a night, and to be able to do a nice job today, to bring that crowd back, that could spell ugly for the Indians. And I don't know if the Indians are. I mean, the Indians, like I said, they're up 3-1. Kluber now probably would not be able to go. I mean, everyone had to get pushed up a day thanks to this drone incident, which sounds like a Cleveland Indian mistake. And believe me, I'm known to know about bad luck stuff. I mean, the sneeze of Sammy Sosa in 2004. That put him on the disabled list. I know all about the shenanigans that go on. So don't get me wrong. But still, it's still very... I'm glad that this series is continuing. I don't really care who wins it. I thought Toronto would have at least made this a series before today. I thought this would be a back and forth, and I thought the bats would have came alive for the Blue Jays. You heard me and Scott talk about it yesterday. I thought the bats were finally going to come alive for this team. They were going to step up and really dominate, and they didn't yesterday. They did a tremendous job. Did the pitching of the Cleveland Indians, and then look what happened. So a big win for Toronto. That series is at 3-1, and before they head back to Cleveland, they have one more tomorrow, which if you're a Cleveland Indian fan, do you want to see that series end in Toronto and know, okay, we're in the World Series? Or do you want a chance if Cleveland... Is it not the worst-case scenario if Cleveland loses tomorrow and then they have two opportunities to clinch at home? Because part of me wants that to happen with the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs would have to win all three in Los Angeles, which is a tough task. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. And odds are if the Cubs are going to win this series, they're going to have to do it at Wrigley Field because I do not see them taking all three from the Dodgers. So they would have a chance to clinch at home. But still... I think for an Indian fan, and I mean even in that last series against the Giants for the Cubs, they were up 2-0 there, and I felt more nervous. And I mean, I have not felt any nerves in this series against the Dodgers. I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know what it is. I'm sure I will feel them if they lose tonight. But we'll get into the Cubs in a bit. But I think if you're an Indian fan, I think you want to get this done and know, okay, let's focus on the NL and we'll celebrate first. Because they haven't been to a World Series since 1940 or 1997, when of course they got walked off. That'd be a terrible way to lose a World Series. I mean, Cubs haven't been to one since '45, and to lose on a walk-off in a World Series would be terrible. And that was to the Marlins on a base hit that scored Craig Counsell, and a base hit that went up the middle. The Florida Marlins are first of two World Series. Of course, the second one we don't need to get into. But I still think a very solid game, and I think Cleveland would take a win on the road to know they're in. They don't want to have to then have a day off, then have to think about it in Cleveland. because I think that becomes scary. So hopefully there'll be something done. I mean, like I said, it don't matter to me. I was hoping this series to extend a little bit, so then whoever's resting, and then if the Cubs do advance to the World Series, then they're not facing a completely fresh team with the World Series starting 1 week from tonight in Cleveland or in Toronto. So that's where I'm coming from with that, and I feel that hopefully more fun things will come out of that. But again, the Blue Jays are able to salvage a game to make this a series, win tomorrow. And we'll see if they'll be able to do that. So Indians take game 3, 4-2, made it 3-0. And the Blue Jays win this afternoon of a final of 5-1 and are still alive going into tomorrow. So no champagne and cars tipped over in Cleveland, Ohio just yet. We got about a little under 20 minutes remaining of this show. A lot of that's going to be devoted to the Cubs-Dodgers Game 3 tonight. Before we do that, let's do the Windy City Sports Minute. This is your Windy City Sports Minute for Tuesday, October the 18th. Well, the ALCS got one step closer to being completed yesterday as the Indians get a 4-2 victory over the Toronto Blue Jays, making it a 3-0 lead. Then, of course, this afternoon, that game currently in progress at the time of taping this, and the Indians are losing 5-1 to the Blue Jays. That could make that series 3-1. Game 5 would be tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. on TBS. Game 3 of the NLCS will be tonight. Jake Arrieta and Rich Hill at the top of the hour, 7 p.m. on FS1. And, of course, that will be Jake Arrieta against Rich Hill. That is your Windy City Sportsman. Also, Blackhawks are in action tonight against the Flyers of Philadelphia. That is your Windy City Sportsman. And now back to Windy City Sports Talk. Okay, welcome back here to Windy City Sports Talk. We got the ALCS out of the way. It's now time to talk about the NLCS. Of course, for you that don't know what happened, Game 1 was a 3-0 Cub lead at one point. Then the Dodgers come right back, get 3 runs, make it 3-3. Miguel Montero, a pinch hit grand slam, makes it 8-3 Dodgers, get 1 run in the 9th. Or whatever inning that was, Cubs win Game 1. Game 2, Adrian Gonzalez hits a solo home run. Clayton Kershaw was Clayton Kershaw, and that was your final 1-0. And that is where we are tonight to start 3 games, and all 3 of them will take place against those Los Angeles Dodgers at Chavez Ravine in Los Angeles. Now, before I'm going to give you the lineups, and we're going to talk some matchups in a minute, or to start things off, but the first thing is, of course, this is a 7 o'clock start Central. It is a 5 o'clock start in Los Angeles, so I think these teams will have to battle with the sun and the shadows at Chavez Ravine. So I think that might be one problem early on, which, I mean, you never know. I mean, that could be an advantage, could be a disadvantage, but of course your starters, of course this game will start at the top of the hour. As soon as we're done, that game will begin on Fox Sports 1. Joe Buck and John Smoltz will have the call on FS1. You obviously got Jake Arrieta at 18-8 with a 3.10, Rich Hill 12-5. With a 2-12, so this should be an impressive matchup, and I think a matchup where this team has a chance to really. The winner of this, I think, it's a swing game, I guess you could call it, because Game 3, someone's got to have the lead, no matter who it is. And I think, and I continue to say, and before we get into all this, let's give you the lineups, and then I'll give you some matchups here. Okay, here's your lineups. First for your visiting Chicago Cubs, leading off and playing center field, Dexter Fowler. Batting second and playing third base, Chris Bryant. Batting third and playing left field, Ben Zobrist. Batting fourth and playing first base, Anthony Rizzo. Batting fifth and playing second base, Javi Baez. Batting sixth and playing right field, Jorge Soler. Batting seventh and playing shortstop, Addison Russell. Batting eighth and catching, Miguel Montero. And batting ninth, pitcher, Jake Arrieta. And here's the lineup for the, let's talk about, before we get into that, the obvious changes for the Cub lineup. First, Ben Zobrist goes from, I think, 4 to 3. And now Rizzo's getting put in the cleanup spot, which he's not hitting. And, I mean, Fowler, besides the home run he had after Miguel Montero's on Saturday, Game 1, he really hasn't hit much in this playoff either. Hopefully he can get it going. And obviously the big thing was, what are you going to do with Jason Hayward? Well, of course, lefty being Rich Hill, they take him out. You got Jorge Soler being your starting right fielder tonight. And I think that's going to be big for this team. And I think Jorge Soler is swinging for the downs. A lot of these guys at certain times, I think even the pitch before Montero with the home run, me and Papa Shango were watching it together, and I'm like, he's swinging for a home run. He don't need a home run. He needs a base hit to give this team the lead. Well, here he hit a home run. But in a normal situation, you just want to get a hit. If you got runners on, you just want to get a hit. A 500-foot home run is great. But you still want to be able to get some runs in. So a hit is you'll take the home run. But I think a hit you would also take also. So that's your Cub lineup. Now let's take a look at the lineup for the hometown Los Angeles Dodgers. And do you really think, I mean, look, San Francisco's a rowdy bunch of people. They've won 3 World Series and all that stuff. But now do you see this crowd being loud and proud for their Dodgers? I mean, they're showing a live look at right now. Arrieta's walking to the bullpen. I still see a lot of empty seats. So, I mean, is that a home field? I mean, it's a home field advantage for the Dodgers for 3 games. But is it really? Because these fans Dodger fans don't really care, do they? I mean, there's a million other things you could do in Hollywood than worry about your Dodgers. And I'm sure there's fans just jumping on the bandwagon right now, just saying, oh, yeah, the Dodgers are 3 wins away from going to the National League or the World Series. Let's jump on board. And I'm not saying that's not with the Cubs, because I'm sure the Cubs have just as many bandwagon people also. I see people that I knew were Sox fans and have jumped over ship. I would too. And you see the buffoon, that Frank guy from Wisconsin wearing a Steve Bartman number 44 jersey, which is Rizzo's number. Wearing that and looking like an idiot. He was part of the Charlotte Hornets or whatever they are now. But he's a White Sox fan, was at Game 2 on Sunday. So, I mean, I don't know. I have a shirt that says "Forgive Bartman." I don't think I'd wear it to a Cub game, but I got it. I'm not touching it during the playoffs, but I got it. So yeah, I think he's an idiot. But people can try what they want. This team is not gonna get. This team isn't cursed. If they lose this series, it's because it's to a better team. And before I get into my thoughts and all that, let's give you the Dodger lineup tonight before I continue to ramble on, and then I'll give you some matchups against the 2 starters. Leading off and playing second base for the Dodgers, Chase Utley. Batting second and playing shortstop, Corey Seager. Batting third and playing third base, Justin Turner. Batting fourth and playing first base, Adrian Gonzalez, which I think is the guy you have to watch out for in this series. Batting fifth and playing right field, Josh Reddick. Batting sixth and playing center field, Jock Peterson. Batting seventh and catching, Yasmani Grandal. Batting eighth, left fielder, Andrew Tolles. And batting ninth, pitcher, Rich Hill. Like I said, the guy you have to watch out for in this lineup is obviously Adrian Gonzalez, who in the regular season had 18 home runs, 90 RBIs with a 285. Excuse me, I had chili, so I'm feeling a little clogged up. I think if the Cubs can keep Utley, Seager, and Turner off the bases and not have a bag and a lot of guys on for Adrian Gonzalez, I think obviously they have a chance to win this game. I think they have a chance anyway to win this game. But I think that'd make life a lot easier for Jake Arrieta. Let's take a look at matchup numbers now. Against Rich Hill for the Cubs, only 2 guys. Dexter Fowler has no batting average. I believe he has a walk against him. David Ross has no batting average and 1 at-bat. Ben Zobrist is batting .500 with an RBI and 2 at-bats. And, of course, Rich Hill was drafted by the Cubs in 2007 or whatever, and he pitched for Lou Piniella. So, I mean, he has that opportunity. He has that, but obviously there is not one player on this team. The longest tenured Cub is Travis Wood. He hasn't been here that long. So, when you put that into perspective, they're going to be facing a guy they haven't faced before. Now, on the other side for Jake Arrieta, let's take a look at some of the numbers for him. The only number that jumps off at you, I mean, listen to this. Chase Utley has had 13 at-bats. He's got a 0 batting average. I'm gonna name off the names of the people that have a 0 batting average. Chase Utley in 13 at bats. Justin Turner in 2 at bats. Jock Peterson in 6 at bats. Enrique Hernandez, which I believe is Kike Hernandez, 3 at bats. Yasmani Grandal, 4 at bats. One guy is batting over 500, and that's Yasiel Puig in 3 at bats with a 667. The next closest is 444 and 9 at bats. That's Josh Reddick. So Reddick might have a little bit of an advantage, but I don't even think Reddick's in the lineup tonight, is he? Yeah, he's batting 5th. So if you can, and obviously the last time, and the Shadows right now are out to right field. And they're doing the starting introductions right now with Chavez Ravine. Cubs wearing their alternate blue tops. They're doing the introductions at Chavez Ravine.
Batting second, third baseman, number 17, Chris Bryant.
This is courtesy of Fox Sports 1.
Batting third, in left field, number 18, Ben Zobrist. Batting fourth, at first base, number 44, Anthony Rizzo. Batting fifth, second base, number 9, Javier Baez. Batting sixth, right fielder, number 68, Jorge Soler. Batting seventh, the shortstop, number 27, Addison Russell. Batting eighth, in the bullpen, catcher, number 47, Miguel Montero. Batting nine, in the bullpen, the pitcher, number 49, Jake Arrieta.
And that's the Cubs lineup. I don't think we really care about the Dodgers at this point, but okay, so I mean, you didn't really hear any boos because I don't think really many Dodger fans even know what the heck's going on in this series. Giant fans die hard. I mean, they jumped on after they won their first World Series, but still, I think this is still a team that I don't think this is going to be as loud as a crowd as you think it would. It's Los Angeles. They're very mild people, obviously. So I don't think this is going to be a real home field advantage for the Dodgers. And I watched ABC 7 News last night, and I think that this team overall, I think, or a lot of the fans of Chicago going to Los Angeles. That's a long flight. Not too long. I mean, I went to my first WrestleMania was the San Jose, so I mean it wasn't. I mean, it's 3.5 hours. That's pretty long. This year's will be long in Orlando, but Dallas last year, or this year. But anywho, I think it's still a big opportunity for this Cub team, and I mean I'm really still thinking that this is a Cub team that. I mean, like I said, I was worried from pitch 1 to the last pitch of that series with the Giants. I really never had a, okay, calm down moment. I've been calm in this series since the beginning, and when I finally told my dad that that's when Adrian Gonzalez got the hit to win or to tie the game 1. Now, Adrian Gonzalez obviously I think he's the guy to beat in this series. He's probably the hottest guy. And there goes the remote again. So I think right now when you put it in perspective, I think the Cubs. And we looked at the numbers. Let's get into the Jake Arrieta thing. Last time he pitched there, and you heard Beatty give them numbers when he was on the show yesterday, that they haven't given up. Or he didn't pitch there this year, but he did a tremendous job against this Dodger team. This is a Dodger team that I don't think many people thought would be here. I think a lot of people thought it'd be Cubs Nationals in D.C. And it could have been I predicted Giants-Dodgers. That wasn't the case. So I mean, you put that into perspective, I think, and I continue to say it personally. The Cubs need to win every game Kershaw does not pitch to win this series. They lose tonight, that means they have to beat Kershaw. I'm not going to say if they lose tonight, they're done. But I'm telling you that to make life easier for Cub fans, tonight is Rich Hill. Tomorrow night is Juan Urias. And then if they're down by that point, they're going to bring or even if they're up by that point, they're going to bring in Kershaw. You lose the next two, no chance. But you got to think they're going to put Kershaw Game 5 and maybe start him Game 7 if there is one on Sunday. So I'm not sure. But anyway, let's go back to Dodger Stadium. This is Fox Sports 1 and the National Anthem.
Please welcome Keith Williams Jr.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets reclaim those words through the night that our flag will still come. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave for the land of the free.
Well, he's no Wayne Messmer, that other guy that says the free really like for about a minute, but still pretty good in Los Angeles. They have 3 games coming up, fireworks going off. I didn't even know they did fireworks at Chavez Ravine. But anyway, they're getting ready for Dodgers Cubs Game 3. Like I said, I think if I remember again, we have about a minute and a half remaining, and of course tomorrow we'll be back at our normal time, 3 p.m. Windy City Sports Talk. We're going to recap Game 3 Cubs Dodgers. We are going to preview Game 4. Also recap Blackhawks. We didn't get a chance to talk about them. They start against the Flyers tonight. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. My prediction tonight, I say Cubs win. They need to win. They need to beat Rich Hill and get a 2-1 lead going into tomorrow against Urias, and I think that's going to put their back up against the wall to decide if they're going to bring in Clayton Kershaw or what game they're going to bring in Clayton Kershaw. Should be fun. Should be exciting. Enjoy it. I'm not nervous. Ask anyone around me. I'm usually the most nervous and annoying person to watch a Cub game, but then tonight I'm watching it by myself because my mom's at work. Having some people over on Thursday, though, because you got Bears-Packers and Cubs Game 5, so we'll see. And as of right now, Cubs could be going to the World Series tonight, but they got to win tonight, they got to win tomorrow. So we'll see what happens, everyone. Thank you for listening. I say Cubs win tonight. I'm going to say, my remote, you heard it drop twice. Maybe it's a sign. I'm going to say Cubs win 2-0 tonight over the Dodgers. Arrieta pitches great. We come back tomorrow, we're calm. They lose, we talk each other off the ledge a little bit and win Game 4. But we win tonight. Go Cubs. Back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Everything's the same. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Love you all. I'm Ryan Young. Have a great night, Chicago.